You ready to go over some rods?
Let's do it.
The medium light fast spinning rod, 6/8 medium heavy fast.
The medium like that?
Yeah.
You just passed them all.
No, he was right there. He grabbed one. All right, guys. Hey, listen. Here with Hank Cherry today. We're in the Bass Mooch Level Rod warehouse, and this is actually the Level Rod, basically rod room. This is it. This is where when you order something, this is where it's coming from. So today we're going to go over with Hank. He's going to give us a little rundown on what he calls, some people call action, some people call it flex, but a lot of us, like, when I walk into a store, I go, oh, this is a medium heavy fast, or this is a medium moderate. There's a lot of times you really don't know, or you're just looking at the rod and you read like, oh, this one says crankbait. Well, now we'll get it from Hank and kind of hear how what the medium heavy fast, what the moderate, what all that stuff means. Kind of get an idea on it.
People get caught up and want technique specific rods. Well, here's the thing about that. Everybody is shaped differently. He's tall and chubby, I'm tall and thin, Matt's tall and thin. No offense.
I take
But everybody's shaped differently, everybody fishes differently, everybody likes a different feel. If you're in this room specific right here and you're going to talk to me about feel, if you want me to describe the OGX, the NGX, I told John earlier, my description to you is kind of simple. These rods are heavier. They have a little less feel to them, which some people absolutely love because it's old school style. These are a little lighter, a little flashier, definitely have more life in the blank when you're fishing the baits. But it doesn't make one better than the other. It's really preference, and that's the great thing about having the two lines. But when you go to talking about the action of a rod, people get confused on, well, what action should I use for what technique? Really, it just depends on your style fishing and how you jerk. If you're a slack liner and you like to rip it, or if you're a shaky head guy and you want that more sensitivity and just reel and lean into them, cranking, what do I need to use? I'll give you my guide. They're all labeled out. So right here, this is a 6'9". It's a medium light extra fast. It's a jerkbait rod for most people. Smaller guy, throwing square bills, may like it. Typically the same action as in a crankbait rod, it's just a little shorter blank. Very sensitive, lighter, and you'll notice as your technique goes up with the rod, usually the weight of the rod goes up. So then we get into like, what is medium, medium heavy, medium fast, medium moderate. Okay, it's all relative to what it says on the blank. What you have to understand is this. If something is a medium power, it's going to have more flex, more bend, lighter rod. Usually you're going to go through lighter baits on it. It's not a heavy rod made for big baits. When we throw in that medium moderate to it, that means the rod's going to have more flex. So it's going to go from a 730, 80-20 bend to more of a 60-40. And when you're talking about moderate, you're talking about square bills. You're talking about chatterbaits. That's why, like, we have the glass rod here. Glass is more of a moderate bend. People like that, especially for chatterbaits, because they want the fish to inhale, and you really don't need that heavy, fast action to rip into it. You kind of let them pick it up. But the backbone is the most important part. You go to medium fast, which fast is just what it is. The tip is fast to bend. It's fast to flex. It's fast to get to the backbone. That's more like if you're bed fishing, Texas rig, spinnerbait around target, things of that nature, heavy flipping. You're wanting that kind of action in the rod, like typically. But once again, like I said before, I reiterate this a bunch. It all depends on the angler, which makes fishing so great. Nobody does anything the same. You got all the way from medium heavy fast, moderate, all the way to just straight heavy. When we talk about straight heavy, we're talking about, like flipping in grass, or maybe you're somewhere where there's giant bedfish and they're not smart enough yet, and you can catch them on braid. You want that bigger, heavier rod. Flipping an ounce and a half weight in mats, like in Florida. You want that bigger, heavier rod. Like, that is just the thing. Like, this is one like here. Like, it's obviously, it's heavy, it's heavier rod, but there's no bend. I mean, it's the tip, and then boom, it's to the backbone.
So
right?
So here's a big thing for people who don't know. When you see somebody get a rod and they'll do that, they'll bend it. When they put it down and they're bending the tip on it, what are you technically checking for right there?
You just look at the flex in the rod, which is, people will say parabolic bend, but that's way over. A lot of people say it, even mine. You're just looking for the flex in the rod. So, and here's the thing of why I'm not so keen on technique specific, is because like this rod right here. It's a 7.2 medium heavy fast, and I could get it, and I know right off the bat when I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, it feels like a pretty good frog rod to me. But if that said Texas rig or jig rod, and I picked it up, well, that's not really what I want, the feel that I like. So I'm probably gonna put that rod back down and go looking somewhere else.
Meaning, so basically meaning if you're walking to a shop, you look at it like I was saying earlier, you go look at it and you go, oh, this is a chatterbait rod. In your mind, you go,
that's not what I like for a chatterbait.
That's not what I like for it. So it basically turns you off of maybe.
Yeah, because that's the great thing about fishing. I've said for years now, like everybody has their own way they like to do it.
Right.
Like spinning rod guys. I know some spinning rod guys, like we have our spinning reels here, they go from medium light all the way to medium heavy. Some of them want that quick bend. They just need it. Like when you go smallmouth fishing up north, you want that really, really, really fast all the way to the butt. The back 30 is hit, but you want it to the smallmouth so you keep them on, right?
Right.
Like you want that. And then you might be brush pile fishing with a shaky head. And you want to get them out of there, you want to move them a little bit. So then you got to go to that medium heavy blank. Same size rod typically, just a little heavier blank so you can move fish around. It's all what you want and what fits. And that's the great thing about fishing. That's the great thing about here at Level Rods, because we have the two different lines of rods, similar actions, several different across the board. The lengths go from, I think, 7.4 on the spinning down to 6.10. And then on the bait casting, we go from like 6.8 to 7.10 with every kind of action in between. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. But looking at rods, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You don't need to make it so
project.
difficult.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I think we make it, personally, I do, being an amateur on the amateur side of it, like fishing the BFL side and stuff like that, even I make it more difficult in the fact that I go in and start looking and going and you, I think what we all do is younger fishermen, or not so much younger fishermen, but more the newer fishermen coming up, they start looking at it and they're like, oh, I need this rod and that rod and this rod and that rod. And you basically just said a little while ago, you were like, yo, this is one of the rods I used all year. You know, like this size rod is the one that I basically used, you know, for most of my stuff this year.
Well, dude, you have to kind of pay attention and categorize things. And there are a lot of rods that are multi-purpose. For me, it's the 7.3 medium heavy fast is a multi-purpose rod for me. Because I can throw my jig on it, I can throw my Texas rig on it, I can pitch a solo or a Cinco around, I could even throw a swim bait on if I had to, I could throw a buzz bait on if I had to.
So this is like
throw a whopper flopper.
So this is it. This is the Hank Cherry go-to, pretty much 7.3 medium heavy, huh? This is what you would use.
That's the rod that I just use a lot. I have a lot of techniques that I can do with that rod. Now, could I do them with a 7.2 or a 7 foot? Sure. That feels the best for me. But from using it all year long, that's my thing. That's what I do. That's what I have it. So just the same thing. When I go to throw my top waters, I throw the 7.2 medium heavy moderate fast.
Okay.
The same rod that I throw my chatterbait on. Caught 30 pounds of bass at Lake Fork on that particular rod. Caught fish schooling with the fluke on it at Lake Murray.
Yeah, this one
So
seems to be a big seller, the old 7.2 medium.
So when you look in my boat, or you look in my garage, which you've been there several times, we have all these rods, but I don't carry all these rods just to have all these rods. I take what I'm going to need. I use what I'm going to use. I don't bring all the extras. Now, if I bring backups, it'll be backups of a certain rod. So when you're starting out fishing and we're getting into fishing, or you're co-angling, or you're getting into tournaments, you're thinking, everything these days, I got to have money for gas, food, baits, rods, this. Like, you can easily look at this lineup and pick you 6 to 8 rods and go fish a tournament and have everything covered from banging the bottom to fishing the top. As a co-angler these days, I think you can survive with 2 spinning rods and 2 bait catchers and roll.
So 4 rods you can survive. That'll give you your finesse style stuff if you need to, or whatever.
You could basically have 2 spinning rods kind of for a bottom and the top of the water column, whether if you have a guy that's fishing brush piles or you're shaky heading out deep or drop shot and you got one for that. If you got one that's forward facing, throwing minnows around, you got one for that. And when you come this direction, depending on whether or not and what time of year it is, you have an option at a 7 foot medium fast all the way to a 7.3 medium fast moderate. You've covered spinnerbaits, top waters, chatterbaits, crankbaits, lipless, swim baits, anything you can throw can be thrown on one of those 4 rods.
I think that's awesome, because I think that's the big thing. You know, a lot of people go, I have to have 16 rods to be competitive and stuff like that. And I'm to blame for that sometimes. You know, I'm like, oh, I need this and that and that. And then you're the guy that gets on the boat as a co angler, and you look like you've got a hockey bag and, 42 sticks with you.
That's exactly what I said to you every time you show up. Why'd you bring all that?
It's not what you say, dude. But whatever. The thing is, it's like, there's a prime example right there. When you're getting into fishing, you don't need all that. Get you 3 good rods and rock and roll with it. 4 good rods and go with it. That's where you're at. Heck, if you're just the everyday fisherman, get you 1 or 2 good blanks. Those are the ones that can go the long way. Something that you feel that you can get longevity out of, and that you can throw anything you want to on. That's the best thing. So yeah. So Hank, thanks for coming and seeing us today, showing us or telling us about some rods, because there's a lot of people that have questions that ask. In the comments, man, ask us questions. If there's stuff you want to see, stuff you want to know, we can get it out of him. I'll try to get some of the secrets out of him. He probably won't let me have a lot, but we can get a little bit out of him. And keep coming back, man, so we can get you on some new stuff. Hit the like button.